Hey guys, let's talk a little bit about macronutrient adjustments. You may have already encountered a need to adjust your protein, carbs, or fat a little bit. Maybe your coach has tinkered along with your programming as you moved into the later weeks of the first block here, rapid results. And sometimes that's going to be very important right out of the gate because, as I mentioned in that very first week, we are using a lot of scientific information and tools to try and create the best plan as we have certain perceptions of our assessments of you, what your metabolic capacity is like and your genetics. And so there's a lot of information going back and forth between you and your coach and us trying to come out with the perfect plan for you. So it's very, very common to say, okay, you've lost a little too fast, a little too slow in your first week or so. We always have to get through that first threshold of your body stabilizing as you start a calorie deficit and a food intake that may be very consistent, and you're trying to build in extra consistency. You're trying to find that line your first week or so, and so your body's using stored carbohydrate, which means you're releasing a lot of water. Very common for somebody to lose a lot of weight on the scale. I have a client just in the last couple weeks. He actually, for the first month we worked together, he lost almost 20 pounds, which is crazy. But it's because he started out at a very high level, almost 300 pounds, pretty large guy, and he's actually very active. He trains hard. So as his body released a lot of stored glycogen, he lost a lot of water. He's got enough body fat that his metabolism is actually very high. Consider that for a moment. We just finished up talking about metabolism, and we always think, because it's intuitively kind of a myth, that somebody who's very heavy, they have a lot of body fat, we intuitively think they have a slow metabolism. And they might genetically be slower, but the heavier we are, the more our bodies have to work, our muscular system, our heart, and our lungs. So you will never have a higher metabolism than when you are your heaviest. And that's not a goal to have. That's why having the fastest metabolism is not always the best goal. I talked about how that can decrease longevity. Your cells are aging faster when you've got a fast metabolism. But also, when you're heavier, that's definitely not the healthiest place to be, but that's where your body will burn body fat the quickest. So, playing that into the equation of adjusting your macronutrients as your body changes and stabilizes and adjusts, it's very common to have to manipulate your food intake a little bit. And it's not the first thing we do. I hate to see somebody do knee-jerk reactions. Oh, I lost too fast, let's increase food. I lost too slow, let's decrease food. You don't want to do that. There are way too many variables at play, and we need to look at this data over time. That's why I'm so big at looking at net weekly averages and net monthly averages over time. If you plot your progress on a chart, let's say you create this line like this, that this is how much I want to lose at this speed, you're going to see highs and lows and fluctuations, but if you look at that plot line through those points, that's what you're after. You just don't want that line to be, doing things like this. And so that's why it's important to look at the bigger picture over time. But what's happening in terms of macronutrient adjustments, sometimes it's just to experiment a little bit. I think this is very valuable for us to say, hey, look, here's what we've been doing for the first few weeks or the first 2 months. What I want to do is move you a little bit more toward this edge of dieting, of these different precepts of dieting, and just see how you feel, see what you think. There are all kinds of different diets out there. We don't attach ourselves to one rigid type, but there are principles from different diets that you would know by name in the industry, different principles that we can say, as an entire system, this may be horrific and horrible for somebody's, long-term progress, but there is a little grain of truth or something, a principle we can use. So that's why your coach is going to be doing occasional macronutrient adjustments, and it's something to really pay attention to and learn from.